Hi, everybody. It's Curt Doty with RealmIQ Sessions, and joining us today is Ulrike Kerber from Berlin, very talented graphic designer, brander, animator, and AI mentor, educator. And she's done some fascinating work herself, and she also gives workshops. So thank you, Ulrike, and please elaborate on your career, your background, and how you're leveraging AI.
Yeah, thanks for the really nice introduction. We know each other for a long time. I came from broadcast design. I moved into motion design and had my own company and gigs. Then I did some content, also video content for the industry. But now, since I'm here in Berlin 1.5 years ago, I started to research AI tools because I felt like that was really a moment in time where the paradigms were shifting. All of a sudden, the tools were shifting. And I have been working for over 20 years with Adobe Creative Suite. I mean, over and over, Photoshop, Illustrator, always the same tools. And now having all of a sudden other tools was exciting and interesting. So I jumped in and did a little research for Hyper Island University, where I studied digital management, and I'm still in the program. And I'm right about to write my thesis, and I'm finishing up the thesis on creativity and artificial intelligence. So how creative can you be with these AI tools?
Yeah, no, that's great. And I have to say your work is extremely creative and really so polished. I enjoy watching your work. So in general, as you've embraced it as an individual or your company, these great tools that are now in Adobe, right? Ironically, in what ways can companies use these tools, whether it's a creative department, a marketing department? How do they integrate these workflows into their systems for greater creative outcomes?
Yeah, exactly. That's the question. To what degree are the tools right now capable of being really effective? Let's say you do a branding project and you want to do a whole, like from color palette, typefaces, logo design, going into, I don't know, graphic elements and the whole palette. So I went through it through a case study, and I was stuck in a few places, like logo design wasn't really possible yet. But all of it is changing as we speak because we are exchanging our information in these weekly AI salons, and some tools just came out, were introduced to me. So everything I'm saying that would be concrete would be obsolete next week.
Yeah,
Do you
no.
understand? Like if I point to a tool that works out really well, then next week they have an update and it doesn't do that anymore. So it's super crazy. But so your question was, how can a company, for example, utilize these tools, right?
Yeah.
And it's icky at the moment yet. Still, it's like you go to a point, it's working well, and you cannot expect to finish a glossy, beautiful, finalized design. But what I find is really important right now, you can use these AI tools for ideation on creating quick prototypes in a large amount, in a time frame that you wouldn't be able to do in other tools. That's how I use it. So my question to you is now, have you seen a great example of that? Have you seen a company utilizing AI tools really nicely?
Oh, yeah. And, I talk with people in various industries, not just graphic designers like we are, but, blog writers, marketers, real estate agents. I mean, it's just crazy how ChatGPT, which is, text to text, is an amazing tool to kind of drill down on defining marketing personas, like who's going to buy my product. Here's my product description. Who's interested in that? And then continue the dialogue of, okay, how do I write some messaging that connects them emotionally with my product? And it will give positioning, right? And then you can go further and say, okay, now write 10 social media posts on that positioning. and include emojis and relevant SEO words and the relevant hashtags, and it'll just frickin' do it.
Yeah, it will do it. But what happens with everybody uses ChatGPT? Do you feel like it looks and sounds all a little bit the same? It starts to, you can already detect a little bit the ChatGPT style.
A little bit, yeah. So what's important is, like, if you have a unique product, it will write about that product. So however you input your data into the system, into the LLM, that's what is unique, is your input into that. Now, the creativity that it puts forth, you should still judge it and compare to maybe your competitors and say, actually, that's my competitor's tagline, so I can't use that, right? But again, it's that human input and orchestration of this experience that will make it not cookie cutter. So there are indicators, because I use it for my blogs to give me ideas and, you know, write or organize my thoughts. So but what I find is the way they organize their content starts to be predictable, meaning the paragraph structure. They say firstly, secondly, and lastly, and in conclusion, right? So, you know, I end up having to rewrite a lot of that. And then, you know, I'll write the pithy headline, you know, the attention grabber, clickbait.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's very predictable. It feels like it's always a very predictable thing.
It is creating content and helping you, but again, the human side still needs to go through it. And I always ask, okay, please provide some quotes from industry experts and source those quotes. So I see the quotes that come out, and then I say, okay, is this a real person? So then I'll go on LinkedIn and say, oh, I found that person, or I found the article. If there wasn't an article, then it's like, well, I can't use it.
Yeah, have you had some good and funny hallucinations?
Yeah, and what I discovered in talking with a lot of people who use it is that these hallucinations are not a conversation where they start to understand you and analyze you and ask you very personal questions. It's like, no, the hallucination is wrong information that they find because it's kind of they're dreaming up quotes, and it's like, okay, no one said that. I've asked the system, oh, do some competitive analysis and business modeling and revenue reports on certain companies within a certain business sector. And oh yeah, you know, it's $1 billion industry, and this company's doing all this great stuff. And then I go, okay, I want to check that because I do, and then I find out, there's no company named that. They just are putting out fluff. So then I had to, you know, go through some traditional research to really find about some industry categories. So
it can be even dangerous. The hallucination can be dangerous.
It can be dangerous if you just assume everything you're reading is true. And you know, we can't even do that in real life, assume everything is true that you hear. So I think critical thinking and due diligence and your own personal research, traditional and with AI, I think they're all tools to use. But again, that human buffer, that human filter is what I hope. Well, I advocate for that, but I also hope that that will not only help train these LLMs, because again, what we put in and what we challenge, we can actually have a dialogue and say, well, that's not true. I couldn't find that link. And then they're learning from that conversation. So
absolutely,
they can learn. So
they can learn. And then there are also limitations that are quite funny. Today, someone told me he's a copywriter for the TV industry, and he writes those shows, and they are really funny. And believe it or not, there is a funny German TV show for Netflix. There is something like German humor, believe it or not.
No,
And
there
he
is.
is now translating it for fun into DeepL, with DeepL, a learning translator. And it translated an English joke into German, and it took all the fun out of it. Because AI does not understand humor, and it is just translating, and all the words, the little nuances, when a word has a
Yes.
double meaning, it doesn't see that.
Yeah.
So it's eliminated. So these are the little limitations right now.
Yeah, what's interesting, we just got over a writer's strike in Hollywood. We haven't stopped the actor strike, but AI was big concern. And because of this humor thing, yeah, I think comedy writers are very safe in this AI world, because whether it's translating to another language or just straight up humor, I think comedy writers are safe at this point, because yes, it doesn't have a personality, as well as a moral compass. I'm hoping that it can teach itself to have a moral compass. That's a larger discussion. In terms of the effect on business, what have you come upon in your conversations with various industries? What are the ethical concerns that are happening that you see?
Ethical concerns, we have a lot of those. We have the privacy issues, and a lot of companies like consultancies and Mercedes-Benz and other companies are very careful using ChatGPT. They are not sure about the privacy issues. And then we have the bias. I typed in just for fun, political leader, without having any gender on it. Political leader, keynote speaker, only men come up. So it is sexist. It's very hard to get over it.
Probably white men, right?
What comes up is always a strange mix of Obama and Trump when I say political leader.
Okay.
And I cannot get, and that's why this website was done. It's called Miss Journey. So go to missjourney.com. They have a very nice intro, and they explain how many things are agenda bias. Then there's age bias. So you type in Midjourney, a beautiful woman in her 70s with white hair and wrinkles. What comes out is usually 3 out of 4 is a young woman. So that's not. Then I write older woman with white hair. Of the 4 variations in Midjourney, there are 4 white women. So it's racist. There is no other. So this is now going to change, I think, a little bit. I think this is changeable if we speak up enough and prompt heavily. But then what I also notice is when I prompt in Midjourney, now I have trained my Midjourney with 4,000 images plus, I don't know how many images, but a lot of images. So what comes out of that is that I'm training it like when you watch Netflix, you get a recommendation machine on the bottom. It shows you what else you should watch.
Yeah.
Now I don't get any more normal images, because I have these crazy prompts. I try to max it out creativity-wise, but I cannot get a normal image anymore.
Oh, really?
And I cannot go back.
Your chaos factor is high.
Yeah, my chaos factor is high. I don't know what happened, but the words it took from earlier prompts, it uses those again in my profile. So I would have to start a whole new profile to start from scratch. That is a new discovery I made. It's really strange.
Have you played with DALL-E at all, even through Bing? Now, I've been playing with Bing and DALL-E, and it's pretty fantastic. Have you played with that at all? Because I think it addresses some of these things that Midjourney doesn't. Midjourney has a very difficult interface, and so as other platforms are learning and progressing, I think they're getting better. They give you options on format dimensions, right, or stylistic directions that are clickable choices, versus you have to write it in with a dash
Yeah.
code.
Yeah, like Adobe Firefly is very easy. You can just choose things and it comes out. So I noticed that it depends on your project, what look you want to achieve. Because Midjourney has a special look, a certain look. DALL-E has another certain look. And they all have now something else going on. And there are other platforms that are better for type. Typography is really difficult in Midjourney.
Oh
It's
yeah.
impossible. You
Yeah.
cannot get anything straight there. And so, yeah, I think it's all in development. If I show you a picture of what I did last year and the same prompt, use the same prompt today, and in the middle, in maybe in March, these are three completely different images. They look completely different. So much has changed.
Yeah.
And it's not going to
And
stop.
getting better and more sophisticated, right? It's
Yeah,
not just a
very
different
detailed, very
interpretation.
sophisticated.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
fascinating. So that shows it's learning, right? So that's a good thing. So as you're talking to other companies or maybe other creative agencies, what are their internal challenges and barriers that they face by using these? Are their bosses all for it, or are they against it? What are the challenges that these creative people within agencies are faced with these days?
Well, I don't know about in which agency, Sarah, they are, but I had a big workshop this last week with 180 people in an online workshop. I don't know where exactly they work, but it's more a creative digital community.
Mhm.
And the challenge there is I noticed is that the fear and the reluctance as a barrier to even open up to AI. There is a negative branding image. AI is very negative perceived. And I looked into that. Why is that? And I did a little research. I typed in Google artificial intelligence. Of the first 100 images that come up, 90 or so are in blue and black, dark, with white glowy lines. 27 of those had a white glossy robot. 33 had a man's head, and maybe 3 had a female head. So are we wondering why people don't like to go into AI? If that's the image, it's not, it's a scary, spooky image,
Yes.
especially when it comes to media. Any movie that depicts AI talks about general AI and super intelligent, but that is not existing, and people don't understand that that is the part that's fiction.
Yes. Right. Yes, Hollywood has not helped. I've written and spoken a lot about this branding problem with AI, and it's the use of robots, because the
Yeah.
use of robots and imagery, it's just so easy for someone to generate a robot in Midjourney, to find a stock photo with robot. So as they're writing and blogging, they're promoting robots. And so what is that saying?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're going to be replaced by robots. And if you use AI, you're somehow becoming inhuman, and or you're going to be replaced by a robot. And it's just not true. It's software. I haven't met any robots in my dealings with creation on these AI platforms. And
Yeah,
so
it's software. I
just
think
like
it's also the
Photoshop.
word.
Well,
Yeah,
yes,
I'm
just
sorry to interrupt, but I think it's the word artificial intelligence. These two words are not good words. If you
yeah,
just say algorithm or software, computer systems, things are
yeah.
fine.
I think from a marketing perspective, what's happening is that um, I like the word augmentation, augmented intelligence, because that's what it's doing. It's helping your own intelligence, your own creativity, and kind of supercharging you as a creative person, or not even a creative person, but a business person, marketing person. And so if you just replaced artificial, which is fake, right, with augmented, which means I'm getting better as a human being, then it can shift that conversation. I don't like, at this point, we're going to be able to change the name. I think generative AI is interesting. It starts to step away from something machine-like, but you're generating ideas it's a good word. Is it the best word? I don't know. I don't think so. But it's
Mm-hmm.
contributing to the dystopian uh,
Mm-hmm.
ending of humanity, right?
Yeah,
Because
it
the
really does.
Terminator 2, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, but it was
Oh,
done so believably well that that's become what people understand, and they just go there.
mm,
And
yeah.
if you look at um, all these technology advances over the years, certainly in creativity, media, look at what Photoshop did
Mm,
for the
mm-hmm.
industry. Everyone was threatened. Illustrators,
Mm,
photographers were like, "Well, what is this digital thing?" It was just so.
yeah.
It was 1993, so but now it's just like accepted, right? And it's become our tool for decades,
Yeah.
and it's evolving with some AI features, which is great. Um, but yeah, so you
Yeah,
know,
I don't think anybody will be even talking about AI in 2 years from now. Nobody will be talking about it because it is embedded in all the softwares and apps. And we will not talk about it because we are getting used to it, just using it without knowing it as well.
right.
Like like in Canva, Canva was a template tool, and now it's actually like softly, gently morphing into this AI tool. We don't even know. Oh, I don't know how it happens. It's just magical.
Yeah, well, it's magical. Yeah, they call it magic, right? But it's a race to ubiquity. That's how I had predicted ubiquity when I saw the potential of it when ChatGPT came out last November. And now here we are. All the major software companies, Google, Meta, Microsoft, have now in their normal interfaces, which we interact with every day, whether it's in Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, they ask you, "Oh, do you want me to help you write that?"
Mm-hmm.
Which is AI. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's helping you generate ideas or copy, and so it's just embedded into the software that we've been using for
Yeah,
30 years.
I know.
And
Mm-hmm.
because of that ubiquity, that will increase adoption and hopefully lower the barriers that or these impasses that people have in their minds about should they be interacting with it. What does it mean if I ask, you know, a
Yeah.
PowerPoint presentation to write the deck for me? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, let her write the deck for you. See, and then double
Yeah.
check it and see what happens.
Well,
So
there is an insecurity about the images and the copyright issues, of course. So that's still a problem that hasn't been resolved. And to be honest, I don't know when a picture that is spit out by Midjourney, when can how do I change so it becomes my picture? How much do I go in to modify it so I can say this is now a copyright image? So there's still this
copyright,
element.
it's a big issue. Ownership,
Uh-huh.
right?
Ownership.
Yeah, I mean, I when I went to art school and in the early 80s, and just before the early 80s was the 1978 copyright law, which um got rid of people having to submit to the copyright office any image they wanted to be copyrighted, and all they had to do was just write copyright the year and my name, and then
Mm-hmm.
that image is copyrighted. Now, you needed to do that if it was published and all that. And those rules at that time when I was learning about image making and illustrating was that if you we've always used reference, right? We've done research. It's like, oh, I like this as a background, I'm going to recreate it or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. We've always been inspired by other artists, and that's been a creative process. That's why art history is fantastic. You look back through history and you go, that inspires me. I want to kind of draw or paint or be that person, but with my own little twist and own sense of humor, let's say. And there was this general rule, like if you can use a reference photo, but you need to change how it looks by 70%. That was literally a percentage.
70%. You have a
70,
7
70,
0. That's a lot, though. I
70.
mean, that is not anymore recognizable then.
Well, I mean, but they're saying, there can be a trace of that original image, but you need to make it,
Uh-huh.
as much, have it be 70% original, like you repainted everything except,
Mhm.
maybe the silhouette or, something like that. So there
Yeah,
there
but
was
yeah, yeah.
degrees of interpretation of that 70-30
Uh,
rule. I don't know if that applies, today, because if you can say, well, I wasn't I got so far with Midjourney, and I know this is what you do in your process. You get it to a certain point, and then you take it into Photoshop and then make it your own. And
mhm.
so, are you doing that 70-30 rule when you're creating your enhanced Midjourney images?
Yeah. Well, what I find really interesting is, what do you do with this image? Like, I heard about a woman who makes cakes and icing on the cake. She's inspired by Midjourney images that she creates first, and then recreates it with a cake,
Oh,
and has a really
perfect.
successful cake business. I think that's a creative use of
That's
it, and to do
hilarious.
something completely different.
Yeah. I don't know if she's copywriting cakes, but yeah, I mean, that's a great inspiration tool, right? Because yeah, it can do these quick 3D images of crazy concepts, and yeah, I want to make a cake out of that. That's awesome.
Right. I think that's cool. You take it into a different medium, and if you are creative, you can do anything. I mean, AI is just empowering, I think.
Yeah, again, I think it comes back to the individual and what is the purpose of why you're using these tools. There's a lot of what I call hackers out there that weren't necessarily creative people, and they just got on this very creative platform and they're spitting out images that are funny, goofy. It's like, oh, I put in uh
Hmm.
avocado lizard eating a watermelon because it was fun. I thought it was funny, and
Yeah.
it created an image. It's like, okay, but what are you going to do with that? Like, what
Yeah.
was the purpose?
Yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
think, we're design professionals, and we are finding purpose driven reasons why we want to create an image. It's either
Yeah.
to go with
Yeah.
a blog article or solve a branding problem or be part of a design concept or designing a mural for a wall of a company
Yeah.
or a theater or something like that. But it's purposeful. There's the reason why we're doing
Yes.
it, why we're using these tools. But
Yeah.
these hackers, of which
It's
there's
entertaining.
so
It's
many. It's
entertainment.
like it's
Hmm.
frustrating, being a creative, watch this go on, and people who weren't creative before saying, oh, I'm creative, I use Midjourney, look what I just did. I did a
Yeah.
avocado eating a watermelon. It's like, okay,
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's like,
why?
why? And actually has an environmental factor too. If you create an image, it takes a lot of energy and server space and data. And I heard 1,000 times more than one Google search, one image.
Yeah.
So think about the billions of images that are created and the server spaces and the farms. I mean, like, it's incredible how much energy is pulled.
Yeah, I mean, data storage, all that certainly happened when we all of a sudden everybody who had a smartphone became a photographer and flooded the world with images of shots of their food, shots of their kid, just like, oh my God, I'm shooting everything. And why do people care? It's like, I don't know, but think of the data storage. And so then the software companies, big tech said, oh yeah, we're going to charge you for that. So you want to keep all those photos, we're going to charge you $10 a month. And it's a huge business, right?
Yeah.
And we said, oh, but yeah, those photographs are so important. I have to pay $10 a month to Google to store my photos, right? So, here's the same thing with AI. The energy, you're right, to create the image, let alone store it. is significant. And I think people are only now beginning to understand, when crypto mining was a thing that was bad for the environment, is there an equivalent detriment comparison with the CPU, GPU costs of creating AI images? And again, people just being, ridiculously wasteful of that technology with just creation of images that aren't about jobs or commerce or anything.
Well, the platforms will become more expensive, and that's the easy solution to that. And they will. I think I already see this price increase all the time, that there is more and more. In the beginning, it was all free, and now they hook you. Only 10 images, and then you have to do the package. So it will become more and more expensive. I think that's how this can be solved.
You're right. You're right. I think that will maybe cure the problem and get rid of the hobbyists and the hacks, and it becomes within the professional realm. But at the same time, you and I have been fans of Adobe, right? For decades, it's like been our major go-to tool. And then Canva came along and just kind of wiped that out. And they said, you don't need to subscribe to Adobe. Use our little platform here, and you can, even if you're not creative, we have all the templates and everything and the tools, so you can.
Well, and that's a beautiful thing too, that it's being democratized. I mean, this world is right now we can all stand equally with the same tools and create, because it's still free. And that's also beautiful, that people who are not creative in the professional world can do something and say, wow, it's cool. And create a children book.
Yeah. And again, it's empowering. But yeah, things are shifting. Certainly, as the democratization happens, it all of a sudden makes people's jobs and roles threatened because of the ubiquity, right? And the availability of these tools. So I think it's all here to stay, and people need to jump in. The creative people, the marketing people, business people, they shouldn't be afraid. You have to embrace it. Will the commerce of putting paywalls in front of access to these tools, will that help specialize the purpose of why people are creating on these tools? Hopefully, we'll see. But we're getting close to our half an hour here. Ulrike, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. And I know you give workshops. Do you want to plug any of your workshops that you're giving and give us some information? And we'd love to help support you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I announce those workshops on LinkedIn usually. So that's LinkedIn/Viva Design, or on my website, ulrikekerber.com. And I'm helping people to, for example, do a whole branding package in 1 hour. We can do this. We can do color palettes, typefaces, logo, and we use AI tools to do that, and even a website. So I'm training people to use these tools and come out as a takeaway with a toolbox that they can use for their private or business purposes. So far, that went really well. And now I do smaller workshops, shorter crash courses on Thursdays that are only focused on one thing. So this week we did retro graphics. The last week we did seamless patterns. And that's something that's really, really fun, because it would take forever to do in Photoshop or Illustrator. So you can just jump into, that's 45 minutes. 9 o'clock on Los Angeles time, 12 noon on New York time, and 6 p.m. here. Okay. Creating graphics in the time it takes to eat a sandwich. That's how I call it.
Okay. That sounds like snackable content.
Yes, snackable, right?
Yes, awesome. I remember that word. So listen, thank you very much. And those of you who are watching, please tune in and keep watching us as we interview AI mentors from around the world. And I have to say, Ulrike, you are one of our RealmIQ mentors as well. And so we're hoping to go into organizations and give comprehensive workshops over a few days with AI experts from around the world. So thank you for joining us in that venture. And that said, bye everybody, and thanks again, Ulrike.
Thank you, Curt. Awesome.
Thanks, everyone. You can now catch RealmIQ sessions on your favorite podcast channels, including Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart Podcasts. Or listen to the full sessions at curtdoty.co/RealmIQ. If your company is interested in reaching an audience of AI professionals and decision makers to promote your event or product, we do have sponsorship opportunities. If you enjoy these discussions on AI, please push that subscribe button below. I'll see you in the next video.
RealmIQ. Book your corporate AI workshop today.
Subscribe to our Media Slam newsletter and learn more about the intersection of design, content, and technology.
CurtDoty.co. Branding, marketing, and product development.